Let's play a hypothetical game. I believe that marriage should only be between a man and a woman. You believe that that's not the case. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. So I post on my social media, I believe marriage is defined by this, that it's man and woman only. Everything else is not right. I actually believe it's a sin.
Yeah.
Now, you read that, and in today's culture, if you say that, especially if you're higher up, you get slammed by the media very hard. You might lose your job. All these things happen. Now, how would you in this role play here? Maybe you might be very offended by that. You might be hurt, stuff like that. How do you take that without canceling me?
Yep. And I would say obviously it's going to be very indicative of how you say it. If you're saying that I'm an idiot or I'm dumb or I'm a corrupt person, or it depends on the language you use. Obviously, is very, very important. But on the same token, if that's going to offend me, that you have a belief. We all have our beliefs, and I'm very thankful we can all have our own beliefs. So if you have a belief about this concept of marriage, and I have a belief about this concept of marriage, I'm not married to you. How is your concept of marriage going to, sure, there's laws of the land, and that's a whole different discussion. But if your concept of marriage is this, and you're my politician, then I have a right to not vote or not live in your riding. I have all those options at my disposal. But if I say you have to do this, because if you're not outright targeting me and saying I have to change, then why am I saying you, so where's the conflict? That's what I sometimes wonder. I'm like, where is the conflict? Just because I hold a belief doesn't mean that I expect you to change and hold the same belief.
Yeah.
So if I have a belief of a concept of marriage that is different than yours, then only if you're trying to change me and say I have to change, that's where the conflict is. But if you just say, I believe it's a sin and this and this and that, and I don't believe it is, then if I'm being offended by that, then I should be looking pretty deep and saying, well, what's my unmet need here? Because everyone is entitled to their belief. You're not entitled to hurting people or violence and all that stuff, but you are entitled to having your opinion and your belief. So if I'm being threatened by that, then is it my safety? If it's my safety, well, what are you doing that I may think is being perceived as a threat to my safety? Well, I don't want people walking. Oh, so you want me to change my view of marriage? Well, now we know where the problem is, right? So it's if I believe you want to change me, then I'm going to resist. But if you say something and it's just an expression of your belief, and I have an expression of belief, then if we are communicating that in the way we've been talking about for the past little while, then where's the conflict? Because we are entitled to, I'm not knocking on your window trying to get you to stop doing what you're doing. I'm not proclaiming this saying, hey, that person is a bad person. I just said, this is my belief. Can you not accept that as my belief? If the other side now wants me to change my belief.
How does that work then? Okay, let's take not marriage, but let's say racism. So you're an employer. You have an employee that works for you that openly says, I believe that blacks are lesser people than whites, just super extreme. And someone finds out about this and is offended and is hurt and said, would you fire that person?
I would first try to understand where they're coming from and saying, so you said this. I wouldn't say, so you believe blacks are lesser than whites, or whites are lesser than blacks, whatever way.
Yeah.
Only if they use those exact words. Remember the observation first. What did they actually say? And say, so what are you? Where are you trying to go with this? What are you trying to say? And if that person is not holding to the beliefs that I have as a company, I'd say, please find a company where you can hold those beliefs. Yeah, absolutely. So in those situations, it's pretty easy because we don't have to be employed by a certain company if they don't follow our beliefs. So that's the way I think it should work. It shouldn't be this company is doing X, Y, Z, and therefore we're all gonna protest and throw stones through their windows and stuff. It just makes it worse. I would say let's start educating each other, and if we need to leave, then let's do that, because I have the right to be respected. So therefore, if I'm not being respected at my job, then I should have the ability to leave that job or ask somebody to leave the job, right? So yes, if I'm an employer of a company and someone is saying things that I perceive are disrespectful to certain cultures, I think I have the right to ask that person to go find a place where they can express those views or retract those views.
So, okay, so now let's go back again.
But I'm not asking them to change. I'm just asking them to not do it on my turf because they're not respecting me either at that point, right?
Okay, so now let's go back to the marriage thing, because then it's more of a freedom of religion thing, but they're getting more and more compared that if you don't believe in gay rights, for example, then you are in the same category as if you're a racist. So now you have business owners that saying if you don't believe these things about gay rights, you don't have a job here.
Yeah.
Now it starts getting gray.
So I guess the point, and this is where I think we're going offside is if someone, and you can take any right for that example, if I am being respectful to someone of a different culture, race, whatever, any gender, you name it, that's very different than saying I am. That's very different than saying I think someone is. You have to proclaim this as your belief now in order to work here, because at that point it's like, well, why? So let's not even talk about just gay race. Talk about any belief. If my employer is asking me to express a belief that I don't believe, then I'm not staying true to my own values. So I don't know if that's answering your question.
I guess so. You would be okay with having someone work for you that's racist as long as he doesn't.
No. What is racist, though? What is racist?
Okay, someone.
See, that's why
I guess I'm trying to figure out the difference between the two because it seems like you're saying if someone was actually racist, then I would say, yeah, that doesn't align with the beliefs of this company. I think I have the right to get rid of them. But when it's marriage, I don't have the right to get rid of them. But what's the difference between the two?
Let's just create a hypothetical situation. If I believe in truly just heterosexual marriages, and I have someone who's in a homosexual relationship in my company, and I don't believe that, but I'm not there. What do you call it? If I'm not there persecuting them or asking them to change, then where's the conflict?
Okay.
That's what I ask myself is where is the conflict? It's only when they say you must say that I'm just as equal as everyone else. It's like, okay, I as a person, you are equal. And so where's the conflict there? If they say, well, no, you need to put my homosexual relationship above the heterosexual one, I'm like, well, why do I need to do that? You're asking me to change. When first of all, I'm not doing any damage. I'm just having a company and I have my beliefs. It's like saying I believe in God or I believe in this. If that's my core belief as a company, I'm not asking all of my employees to believe in God. But what I am saying is if you ask me that I have to stop that, now you're asking me to change and I didn't ask you to change in the first place. So that's where the conflict is coming from.
So you can say, if you had a personal belief that a certain race is less than another race, but you don't go and push that on other people,
I would say I'm truly not self-aware if I have that belief, because if I believe that one race is less than another race, then I'm not in a nonviolent communication place.
Then you're actually doing the violent communication.
Yes, absolutely. If I truly believe that one race is less than another, then I'm violently communicating because I have the ability to do harm at that point.
Okay, and so the difference on the marriage thing is there's one view of I believe all people are equal, but I believe it should be done this way versus if you don't change and start a heterosexual marriage or start a gay marriage, then I view you lesser.
But we also have to remember that working at a company is a choice. I'm not being forced to. So if, for example, I ran a company that had a certain belief that is not saying anybody's less than anything, but I just believe in God or in heterosexual marriage, or I believe in I don't know, a Republican or a Democrat, or it's no different. I have those beliefs. If you don't want to work for that company, you don't have to. But if I now say, no, to work for me, you must become a Republican or you must become a liberal or a conservative, now I'm saying you have to change. I can understand there's an issue. But if I say, but even then, you don't have to work for it. If I say I want a company with just conservatives or just liberals, what's wrong with that? I have a company of just liberals. That's what the Liberal Party is. Yeah. So if I'm a conservative, I'm not going to join the Liberal Party. So why do I force Microsoft to have to do something. I just don't have to work for them if they're not intentionally disrespectfully hurting people or not being racist and all those kinds of things, but they just have a certain belief. Why do I need Microsoft to change?
Okay, so
I don't go to the Liberal Party and say you need to now believe in social conservatism. Why? Because I have a party that does that. So why would I ask the Liberals to change? I can just choose my side.
So can you have a
My
company that
belief.
says,
I didn't say
believe, I believe in hiring just straight people?
In a absolutely non-conflictual, non-violent situation where I'm not persecuting non-straight people, what would be wrong with me doing that?
But you are persecuting because you're saying two people are applying for a job, one is straight, one is not, and you're going with the one that's straight because that's what you want. Is that not a form of persecution?
I guess if we say that, if I'm saying I'm just going to hire you because of that, yeah, then I'm basically I am saying one is better than the other. So in that sense, sorry, I didn't quite understand where your question was going. In that sense, I am saying that. But if that's so, if I go to, but I'd like to challenge that a little bit. I'm not sure where to go with that, but I'd like to challenge that a little bit. Because what if I go to the Liberal Party, but I'm a social conservative? Are they going to accept me? No. They'll say, no, you can't be an MP for us because you're socially conservative and we're liberals. They're going to say no. It's something that so where do you go with that, right? So if we get to a point where we can't even have beliefs, so this is obviously needs some further discussion. But I'm just saying, if we get to a point where I must do everything to please everyone, we're lost.
We can't
do that. It's impossible.
You can't do anything.
Then what's the point of even moving?
Yeah.
So we need to be able to have beliefs, because wouldn't that be any different if I would say we have a company and we believe in God in this company, and I have an atheist and someone who believes in God applying for the job. If I hire them strictly on that merit, then am I saying that the atheist has to become a believer in God when they join the company? Well, that's really where the issue lies. It's not about whether they're atheist or believe a Christian. That's not where the issue lies. I think the issue lies is in how am I displaying that. If I truly am saying you're better than the other person, well, yeah, then I'm in absolutely the wrong place. Mm-hmm. But if I say, hey, in order to do this job, you can't be an atheist because we are a evangelical outreach society, then it's not about it's not about their belief. It's about their qualifications for the job. So, and that goes straight to the gay straight thing as well. If that's not a fundamental belief, but I have a belief of one or the other, and I'm not forcing them on someone, then they shouldn't force it on me either. That's the answer to that question, if I can.
So in the States, we had the example of the baker that didn't want to bake a cake for a gay couple because he said it infringed on his beliefs, and people were upset about that. Now, let's say a baker, someone comes in and says a straight couple, but they're black or they're white, and the baker says, because you're white, I'm not going to bake a cake for you because I don't believe whites deserve cakes. What's the difference? Is the baker allowed to just have the right to say yes to some people and no to other people, regardless of?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think that if we go down that road, we're down the road of racism and saying, because basically, if we can, I think it really boils down to how do we communicate that. Like if I just say, hey, I'm not going to bake this cake for you because you're that way, then am I then implying that you need to change in order for me to bake the cake? Because then I'm in the wrong. But if I say, hey, you know what, when you ask me to bake this cake, this makes me really feel uncomfortable because of this and have these beliefs. If we can talk at that level, we're in a totally different conversation. Then you must change, I must change, right? So that's the heart of what I'm trying to get at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'm slowly getting there. I just find it really tough because I have a feeling that on the racist side that it would be unacceptable. I think right now, anyways, I haven't really figured this out. I mean, that's why we're talking about it, but that it would be unacceptable for the baker to say, I'm not baking a cake for you because you're white or because you're black. But I don't think that it's wrong for the baker to say, I'm not baking a cake for you because I believe in heterosexual marriage only, and I feel like I'm saying it's okay to not have one of those marriages by baking you a cake.
And I guess from a sociological point of view, we're in a different place than we are with gender rights than we are with race rights too, right? So that's probably what's confusing the conversation a little bit. Is that there's still so much, like, it's pretty unequivocal. Like, is there truly is one race really less than another? I think we're pretty much at a point where we know that's not the case. There's no physical evidence. There's no evidence whatsoever other than maybe color and language and all this stuff that people are different. They're people. And this is the beautiful thing about nonviolent communication is the whole feelings and needs is universal. It's absolutely universal. There's no culture. Culture is nothing more than an expression of a bunch of needs. So that's the beautiful thing about culture is that once we start wrapping culture into this whole idea, it actually strengthens the whole idea that culture is nothing more than a group of people that have gotten together to express a bunch of needs. And I guess the same thing goes for religious rights and gay rights and all those things. So the question, I guess, is, am I judging that person for what they believe, or am I just saying I'm not comfortable with what they're doing or what they're practicing? Because that's the kind of thing. I think it's a different conversation. I think it is a different conversation because
one has to do with the person.
One has to do with who I am, and the other one is just with what I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of like if I'm going to judge, and that goes back to the whole God atheist thing as well. Is one is who you are as what you believe, and the other one's, well, how are you doing that? Well, if you're coming in to change the way my organization runs, I don't want that. But if you're just coming here and you're going to work with what we're doing and we're being respectful to each other, then that's so. One is what we do, and the other one's who we are.
Yeah.
And I think,
or as you could say, one has to do with the actual person. The other one has to do with what the person is doing.
Yeah. But in this mix and din of all this violence, we've lost. We're teasing this apart here in this conversation, and we're losing all that pieces. We're losing all those little nuances of the differences between things, and we're losing our ability of discernment and what is different, what's not different, and I think at all costs, respect has to be there, but that doesn't mean I have to be. That doesn't mean I have to adhere to or believe everything that someone else hears. That whole, the being tolerant thing is such a big thing now, right? Tolerant has almost come to the point where I'm only considered tolerant if I believe what you believe, and
the definition of the word is no longer there.
Yeah, and the whole concept now, I know even Margaret Atwood and a whole bunch of authors have jumped on it. I think a whole bunch of authors have signed this open letter that basically says if we're going to the place we're going, we as authors lose our literary right to create characters that are diverse. And so if I now create a black person in a wheelchair in my book, am I being racist? So we've lost our ability to have art, and that's a real live threat right now. Is that shows and books and all these literary things are going to challenge some of the things that are violently being expressed on the streets. And so is that just literary license? Is that art license? Or is that actually the author being racist?
Yeah.
And that's a real concerning thing right now, for sure.